I'm Julian, and this is an essay I wrote about an image of my grandfather. At my grandma's house, I usually go swimming, help her cook, and play in the yard. But the last time I visited, my grandmother thought it might be fun to look at pictures taken during my father's childhood. There were baby pictures, marriages, holidays, and all sorts of photographs, almost any kind you could think of. I saw pictures of my father, uncle, aunts, cousins, my grandmother, plus houses, cars, pets, weddings, etc. But one picture in particular caught my eye. It was a black and white picture of my grandfather smiling proudly and looking confident in a formal U.S. Army uniform. It was taken when he served in the Korean War. I didn't know my grandfather very well. He died when I was 4 of emphysema. I remember his oxygen tank and remember that he didn't seem like a soldier. He was very friendly, gentle, and kind. He could always make my sister and I laugh. But something about this one photograph inspired me to learn more about him, and the story behind it is even more inspiring to me. Most people who have not met him don't know what it feels like. At least, I don't. Sometimes war doesn't even solve anything. From what I've heard, sometimes it's the killing that's harder than the fear of dying. Knowing that, war seems pretty violent and frightening to me. At the time the photo was taken, I'm sure that fear must have been a constant feeling in my grandfather. But you couldn't see any fear in that picture, only joy and pride. I asked my father about my grandpa and his experiences in the Korean War, and he said my grandfather didn't like to talk about it very much. He said that my grandpa grew up poor in the Midwest, just after the Great Depression. He and his brother joined the Army together. Even though he led several dangerous missions behind enemy lines, he had never been shot or even injured very badly. But my father thinks that my grandfather may have killed enemy soldiers. He knows he had seen soldiers on both sides get badly wounded and die. The experience of war stayed with him and made certain things hard for him afterwards. For example, he hated guns, hunting, camping after coming back from home to the U.S. If the war had been hard for my grandfather, then why was he smiling in the photograph? It turned out the picture was taken on the day he was promoted to sergeant. My father told me my grandfather had been promoted to sergeant because of his ability to lead others, stay calm and think clearly under pressure, and because he cared a lot about his men. In his spare time away from the battlefield, he tutored many younger and less educated soldiers in math and English to help them apply to college after the war. My grandfather also helped soldiers write better letters home to girlfriends, wives, and family. My dad said my grandfather was always certain that he and his brother would make it home, and they did. After the war, my grandpa took the things he learned under bad circumstances and used them for good purposes. After coming back, he had the courage to move from the Midwest to California, and the discipline to study hard and graduate at the top of his class from the University of the Pacific. After college, he went to work for the Caterpillar Equipment Company and rose through the ranks of business to one day become the CEO of another successful manufacturing company. He lived a good life, provided for his family, and was active in his church and community. When I was little, I was shy and very quiet. I let fear limit me, stop me from doing things I wanted to do, and prevent me from being who I wanted to become. Seeing this photograph of my grandfather and learning more about his story is truly inspiring. My grandfather had been in a bad situation, but it didn't stop him from achieving success. As long as he had hope, strength, and confidence, he knew he would make it back home. Like him, I will try to solve my problems and overcome my challenges calmly, confidently, and efficiently. I will challenge my fears and do what I think is right. I will help others along the way. I'm so happy to have found that photograph of my grandfather and to have learned more about him and myself through it.